What's up, guys? We're back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about the RTX 4060. Now, the reason our video is dropping today and not yesterday is because the graphics card that we were sent from Zotac is a non-MSRP model. So let's go ahead and take a look. Now, of course, the RTX 4060 series is made up of 3 different cards, which is a little confusing to a lot of consumers out there. But the first card, of course, was the RTX 4060 Ti 8GB, which we already reviewed on this channel, and you can check that video out. And then we have this card, which is the RTX 4060 non-Ti. And then, of course, we do have the RTX 4060 Ti 16GB coming out next month or later. We don't know when that one is going to come out. Now, the RTX 4060 Ti and RTX 4060 are based on completely different GPUs. So this card, the RTX 4060, is based off the AD107, which is going to give you 3072 CUDA cores, 24 RT cores, 96 tensor cores, 96 TMUs, and 32 ROPs. It's of course going to have 8GB of GDDR6, which is going to run across a 128-bit memory interface. The card that Zotac sent us over is their Twin Edge OC White Edition. Now, this currently sits as their highest end RTX 4060. It will come with a factory overclock, so your GPU boost is going to be 2,490 megahertz. That's compared to the 2,460 megahertz of all of the reference model cards. As of right now, Zotac is only offering this in the white color, and since it is a non-reference or non-MSRP card, the current MSRP of this card is going to be $329. As we take a closer look at the card, we have that all-white design, no white PCB, but this is actually going to be one of the few white RTX 4060 cards available, and probably one of the better looking ones as well. Now, if you're wondering about size of the card, I'll go ahead and put the official dimensions up here on the screen, but the card, of course, is not all that large at all. The card features a dual fan cooling solution where both the fans are white, with one having the Zotac gaming logo on it and the other just has a normal Zotac logo on it. These fans are surrounded by a white plastic shroud, but there's really not all that much to it. If we look at the card from the side, we can see that it is indeed a 2-slot card. We get a better look at the cooling solution as well, which appears to be a heatsink with a single heat pipe that runs through it. This is a more traditional heatsink too, not like the dense spin stacks we've seen on other high-end cards. This makes sense as the TDP of this card is 110 watts, so keeping it cool is not going to require that much cooling. Flipping the card over to the other side, we find a Zotac gaming logo as well as a GeForce RTX logo. The Zotac gaming logo will light up when you power your system on with white LEDs. There is a single 8-pin PCI Express power connection at the end of the PCB, which only extends about 75% of the actual length of the card. The back of the card has a full cover metal backplate, which is also white and has a multicolored Zotac gaming logo on it. Finally, we have our display connections, which include 3 DisplayPort 1.4a and a single HDMI 2.1a. We're going to go ahead and run this card through a bunch of tests so you can see what it can do. So here's a full breakdown of our test system. As we come to the end of this review, I think just in general with the RTX 40 series, gamers just have a really bad taste in their mouth from NVIDIA. I mean, we had the whole debacle with the RTX 4080 series, having two cards with two different VRAM sizes, but the actual GPUs were different. And then NVIDIA kind of walked that back and re-released the RTX 4080 12 gig as the RTX 4070 Ti, which was just weird. And again, bad taste in your mouth. And then with the RTX 4060 series, we have three different cards. Again, two different cards that are different in their VRAM sizes, which it's just confusing to a lot of people. And then, you know, a day before the actual reviews of this card came out, they selected certain YouTubers to do a preview, which only limited those people to do Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p with RT Ultra turned on, which anybody can see that that's the absolute best scenario for this card, because one, Cyberpunk 2077 is incredibly optimized for NVIDIA cards. On top of that, the ray tracing and everything is incredibly optimized. So that is the best case scenario, which more or less just felt like an ad for NVIDIA. Like it felt like NVIDIA is trying to paint a narrative, and they're kind of, and again, NVIDIA wonders why like gamers are upset. That is one of the reasons. In any case, what type of performance are you going to get out of the RTX 4060? Now, in our testing, I feel like it is a very capable 1080p card. So we tested a total of 7 games, and the average FPS across those games is around 97, which, like I said, is very capable. And of course, those numbers are going to go up if you're playing certain, you know, esports titles and things like that. So if we compare that to the previous generation, it's about 13% faster than the RTX 3060, but about 21% slower than the RTX 4060 Ti at 1080p. When you move up to 1440p, you're going to see sort of diminishing returns on your performance. So again, in our 7-game test, we saw an average FPS of around 64, which again is playable, but a lot of those games will dip below that 60 FPS mark. And it's going to be one of those things that if you really wanted to play at 1440p, you are going to need to turn certain settings down. So if we compare that to the previous generation, it's only about 10% better than the RTX 3060, and it's 24% worse than the RTX 4060 Ti at 1440p. So I would really only recommend 1080p gaming with this card. So if we do look at those results, specifically 1080p, and we're comparing to the RTX 4060 Ti, the RTX 4060 Ti just looks really bad now, because in our testing at 1080p, it's 21% better than the RTX 4060, but it's 28% or $100 more expensive. And I think, again, the price is what a lot of people are going to be upset about with this card. The MSRP models are all going to be $299, and this card from Zotac is $329. And in reality, I really think NVIDIA should have priced this card at least at $279, if not $259. And I think that's the biggest thing with this card, is going to be the price. It is just not priced correctly for what it is. And as I said in my RTX 4060 Ti video, that felt like a 50 series card, and this really, really feels like a 50 series card, and you're just not getting all of that value that you would expect from a 60 series card. It feels like a 50 series card. When it comes to the Twin Edge OC White Edition from Zotac, it is one of the better looking cards out there. It's one of the few white cards that you're going to find as well, which is going to be really awesome. And it's also one of the few cards that is going to have some lighting. While it's not RGB lighting, you do get that nice white lighting, and it is overclocked. That little factory overclock is going to gain you a few FPS in games, which is definitely nice to see. So guys, that's kind of it for the RTX 4060. Now, I do think that this card is going to sell, and I think that if you are on something like a 10 series, this will be a nice upgrade, because you are going to get things like real-time ray tracing, the, DLSS 3, you are going to get tensor cores, so you can do things like NVIDIA broadcast. And I think that's where buying this card would be a good choice in the 10 series. 20 series, 30 series, it is a very hard sell, just because most of the enhancements that you are getting are via software, not as much pure performance. And that's kind of what I think a lot of gamers want. So if you have any questions here about the RTX 4060 or this card specifically from Zotac, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. We will have links where you can go ahead and pick this card up, as well as our full written review on thinkcomputers.org. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up, and we'll see you guys in the next video.